In this episode of PKBinspire, I'm just going to share with you 3 of the most important tips that would help you ace any kind of interview that you are supposed to attend.
I've been dreaming on in my head like I've seen it. A life worth living is a life with meaning.
Every one of us has had to prepare for an interview. It could be that you applied for a scholarship or you're applying for a job, or maybe you simply are an entrepreneur who is trying to pitch your business idea to a potential investor. Sometimes when you are preparing for an interview, it becomes daunting and somewhat exasperating to think through what are the potential questions that are going to be asked by the panel or by the interviewer. Putting yourself under such a stress is not worth it. Let me explain. The whole idea of the interview is not necessarily a Q&A session. It's not necessarily the ability of a candidate to show forth his ability to answer questions or being verbose or loquacious. The interview is to get to know the candidate and how best the candidate is a good fit for the existing team that he or she is going to work with. Yes, it is important to prepare yourself for potential questions, but the most critical aspect, in my opinion, is you as a candidate knowing who you are in the first place. Number 1, know thyself. This seems very simple, but it's the most important aspect of your interview. First of all, you as a candidate, you must know who you are and you must know what you have put on your CV. The interviewer only has your CV as a point of reference. Whatever you've captured there creates an impression or an image towards the interviewer. Some interviewers would go the extent of creating business scenarios for you to try to solve those problems. The idea is not that you are someone who is able to answer quickly. You are someone who is able to think critically. Certain personality types do not fit in so well in certain kinds of environment. Knowing yourself would even help you choose which opportunities to apply for in the first place. And when you find yourself in the interview room together with the panel or the interviewer, if you know yourself, you are able to handle the questions as best as you can. Number 2, know the organization or company that you are going to interview with. You need to do a bit of due diligence to understand even who are on the panel. Having been on several panels both in Europe and in Africa, some companies would go the extent of letting the candidates know who is going to interview them. If you get such an email or such a letter, as a candidate, you need to do a bit of background search on who is going to interview you. This puts your mind at rest and it gives you an idea of the kind of person you are going to be speaking with. Know the organization. For example, what is the history of the company? What is the culture of the company? What is the kind of work ethic that pervades various departments or the department that you are going to work with? Would you be a good fit in such an environment? These are some of the things that you discover when you decide to do a background check on the company. Number 3, keep your answers as succinct and precise as possible. The interview is not a place for you to show forth how quickly you're able to answer a question or how loquacious or verbose your answers are. Usually, the panel has other candidates that they have to speak to. There are rare cases where you may be the only candidate. However, time is essential in these scenarios. If you're answering the questions, think through what is the most precise way or approach of answering these questions. Keep your answers short, keep your answers succinct. If you're asked to explain further, then you can go ahead and explain further. I have a rule of thumb. If the question that comes to me as a candidate is usually open-ended, where the interviewer is asking me about my opinion or asks me to list something, I usually would keep to 3 or a maximum of 4 points. This helps me to organize my thoughts and organize the prioritization of those points in order to explain them to the interviewer. They're not looking for a candidate who just goes on and on and on. And here's a bonus point. When you have an interview, always show up on time. It's very disrespectful and unprofessional for a candidate to be late for an interview. If you know that one of the constraints you have is traffic, or one of the constraints you have is internet connectivity, you better understand these constraints. Therefore, you need to plan ahead of time. There are times you need to even show up an hour early or leave home 2 hours earlier due to the constraint of traffic or any unforeseen eventuality. You can tell yourself that for every interview that you attend, you'd show up, let's say, 15 minutes before the time or 10 minutes ahead of time. I do hope that these 3 points, and the bonus point, of course, are going to help you in your next interview. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment in the comment section below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Until then, I'll catch you in the next episode.
I've been dreaming on in my head like I've seen it. A life worth living is a life with me.